Well, it's such a beautiful afternoon. I thought I would record this week's midweek boost from my front porch here. What a beautiful blue sky there, and what a wonderful afternoon. I want to think just a little bit more about what we talked about on Sunday, the character Jonah. Jonah, such an interesting character, and there are so many ways we could go. You can't hardly just read a few verses. You had to capture the whole story, and I hope you were blessed by that message on Sunday, and if you haven't seen it, be sure and check it out. I talked about the pictures we used for preschool chapel on the preceding week and how I noticed that the pictures and the story that I chose to help show some of the photos for the drawings for the children ended with chapter 3. Let me show you, for example, the last picture of that series. So with all of the pictures in this series, there were captions that kind of shortened the story down and simplified it. And the end of this particular set of story ended with this picture, and this was the ending in the rewritten version of Jonah. Jonah told the people of Nineveh how much God loved them. The people were so glad to hear about God and said they would stop doing bad things. I don't think I would have drawn Jonah with that great big smile on his face, but otherwise, that's okay. Now, actually, I suppose that is an okay way to tell the story of Jonah, don't you think? If you were telling the story of Jonah to children, whether preschoolers or even elementary age, chapter 3 is kind of a good place to stop because Jonah's learned his lesson. We had the dramatic getting gobbled up by the big fish or the whale and getting spit out, and then after Jonah's prayer, and then how he finally agreed to do what God wanted him to do, and then how amazingly the people of Nineveh listened to what Jonah was saying, and they turned their lives around, and a whole city was spared from destruction. It's almost they all lived happily ever after, isn't it? Kind of like that story. I did not tell you on Sunday about another series of pictures I found. These were also pictures for children, which covered a little more of the story of Jonah. In this case, this was the last picture of the series, which kind of surprised me a little bit. So this is the picture in the other series where they ended the story of Jonah, and I thought this is a curious picture, so I had to go back and read their version of the story. This is how the story of Jonah ended in that children's version. Jonah realized how selfish he had been. That's why he wrote about his adventures in the Bible, to let us know about the tough lessons he learned, that God made and loved us, that he wants us to turn to him for forgiveness. The city of Nineveh was spared, and Jonah went back to his own country. And what a story he had to tell when he got home. Now, my friends, that is not at all what the Bible says, is it? As we noted on Sunday, the story of Jonah did not end, they all live happily ever after. It literally ended with him being resentful about God showing mercy to Nineveh, and resentful about God sending that worm to destroy the one thing that had given him any kind of relief, that bush that had grown up and offered him some shade. You know, there's nothing wrong with teaching a good, simple truth from the Bible, but we always need to beware of being simplistic. You hear the difference? The fellow who did those wonderful Jonah pictures somehow tried to tidy things up just a little too much. So if you're telling the Jonah story to your child or grandchild, you don't need to tidy it up. But here's one thing you can do. You can say, after telling the story, you can say, I wonder why Jonah acted the way he did. And see what the youngster says. Or, I wonder if Jonah finally agreed with God's message. What do you think? I wonder statements are great for any age. You could do the same thing with a group of adults at any age if you were discussing and leading a small group on the story of Jonah. Cherish that story of Jonah. It's just full of marvelous surprises on the way, but don't try to tidy it up. Don't try to make it match up with something else you already believe. Learn from it. By the way, on Sunday, I also shared the true story of the young seminary student who entered seminary after spending 4 years in a maximum security prison in Florida. He's on track to become a United Methodist Church pastor. I believe he's in his last year of seminary at Duke. Now, his real name is not Walter. His actual name is James Slicer Penny, and he goes by his nickname, Slice. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great to have a pastor named Slice? I first learned of his story on an interview conducted by Jason Michelli, a United Methodist pastor in our Virginia conference. And I'm going to share the link to that interview in the comments on this YouTube so you can check it out. Now, it goes for almost an hour, so make sure you have time to listen to it. But you will be blessed. You get to see both Jason and Slice having that conversation together. And he goes into much more detail about his experience. It's an amazing true life story. And as I told you on Sunday, he became a future United Methodist pastor despite being rejected by his home church, a United Methodist church, and despite encountering blatant racism in the first church he served as lay pastor, also a United Methodist church. Fortunately, there was a church in between those two experiences that showed him the real deal. And I have to wonder where he would have ended up if he had not had that experience of finding real mercy, real grace at the St. Mark's United Methodist Church in Charlotte. And I guess my prayer is, may God help us be that kind of a church, help us to be those kind of Christians where folks can see the real deal, where they can experience the real grace and mercy of God. Make that your prayer this week. Hope to see you this Sunday. The Advent Angel Tree comes up this Sunday morning, and the Rise Against Hunger food packaging takes place Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. We've had a great response of those of you who've signed up, but we got room for more. So use the sign-up link or call the church office. We'd be happy to have you. Be sure to take time to watch more about the story of Slice Penny. God bless you.